to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Maybe take a candy.
Tom Collins. Clem Wozleski. Mike Richmond. Jim Galantino. Commissioner Talby. Margaret Gubernalty. Mike Cristaldi. Craig Palmisano. David Carter. Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi. Joe DiGirolamo. Rich Patterson.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of the October 30th, 2014 meeting. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of resolutions and decisions number 45, 2014, Mainline Contracting, number 46, 2014, Marla and Leonard Rosenthal, number 47, 2014, Jay Several, number 48, 2014, Eric and Madeline Spector, number 49, 2014, Stephen and Heidi Goldberg, and number 50, 2014, Holy Trinity Parish.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. First case is Mark Arbite and Terrence Tannehill Jr., 3 South Rumson Avenue, Block 118, Lot 2, in the S60 district to grant C variance for side setback, roof slope less than 512 pitch, and possibly others. Taxes are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. Yes, I do. The subject property is an existing two-story house on a lot of 63 feet wide by 80 feet deep with a total area of 4,786 square feet. The applicants have previously appeared for variances related to the rear first floor media room and the rear yard deck, swimming pool, patio, and related brick wall. These are unrelated to the present application. Per the plans submitted herewith by architect Christina Buendicho, a second floor addition is proposed for an enlarged walk-in closet. The area, a bit under 12 feet by 15 feet, is in the rear left quadrant of the house, extending the two-story portion of the house toward the rear by 12 feet over the one-story portion which houses the media room. If approved, the addition would be 16 feet from the rear property line and 5 feet 6 inches from the left side property line. The addition is most clearly seen on sheet A2 of the plans, as well as the elevation sheet A3. Also proposes a new first floor roof overhang on the left side, rearward, over an existing door from the outside into the laundry room, which overhang measures 6 feet, approximately 6 feet by 3 feet, and which is 2 feet 10 inches from the side property line. The variances are regarding the second floor addition, a left side setback variance 10 feet is required versus 5 feet 6 inches at the closest point to an angled left property line. And again, regarding the second floor addition, combined side setbacks 22 feet required. It is 19.78 feet as proposed. Regarding the roof overhang, left side setback 10 required, it's 2 feet 10 inches. And regarding the overhang, also two side setbacks 22 required versus 17.18. and roof pitch. A 512 roof is required on second-floor roofs. It's a relatively flat roof on the proposed closet addition. Comments? Site visits are essential to ascertain whether these additions meet the C variance tests of benefits outweighing detriments, if any, as well as the intent and purposes of the zone plan. 2, as such, one looks at aesthetics, visibility from the point of view of neighbors and the street in general, and whether or not there is interference with views or light or air. 3, the rearward position is a factor regarding the above criteria, as well as the fact that no additional building coverage is proposed. Rear setback is met. 4, the juxtaposition of the left neighbor's garage to this portion of the applicant's house, as well as the existing landscape screen, may be considered. 5, the flat roof may have an aesthetic component, but as pointed out, if the roof were built up, it would present greater building mass to the neighbors on the left. And finally, as always in these cases, the most affected neighbors may or may not appear to provide their point of view, which would be a valuable testimony to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Chris Balanson. I represent Mark Arbite and Terrence Tannehill with respect to their property and this application at 3 South Rumson Avenue, Block 118, Lot 2. It's an S60 zone. It's a beautiful kind of acid wash brick stately Parkway home that my clients would like to construct a small addition to the rear at the second floor only, measuring about between, it's, this element is 8, this element is 12 by 15, so 150 square feet for a closet off of a bedroom. The closet addition would require a side yard setback because the existing side yard setback is non-conforming. The required side yard setback is 10 feet. This addition, because of the angled lot line to the left by the Weinsteins, is on an angle and increases from about 5 feet 6 inches to about 6 feet 6 inches, where 10 is required. The other variance is for the flat roof to the rear. That roof matches the roof below and the other elements in the back of the house. And the third variance is for a roof cover on the side door for an overhang, just to protect that door from the elements when entering and exiting. Christina did the plan and can touch upon some more specific elements.
Cristina Buenicho. Yes, I do.
Christina, you're a licensed professional architect in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, I am.
You prepared the plans that the board is reviewing and have been submitted. Would you kindly just walk the board through the plans and what you propose?
The addition is at the rear left of the building. This is the existing condition of the second floor. I'm sorry. Okay. And what we're adding is this portion is about 12 by 15. It's better like that? For the second floor. For a walk-in closet. And also we are adding on the first floor an overhang over the existing side door to the laundry because of the weather. It's very difficult, very uncomfortable to go inside. So this is just an overhang to protect from the weather. Over here we can see the addition. This is a portion of the addition on the side elevation, and this is the overhang. And both blend with the existing house, which is really a beautiful home. Previously, we did an addition on the rear for a similar kind of flat roof on the first floor near the pool. And now this is the second addition that blends. It's the same condition with a gable, existing gable, so we are doing the same kind of design for the walk-in closet on the second floor. And that will be the overhang also, like a pediment complementing the existing home.
Christina, the closet addition is about 150 square feet.
Yes, so a 15 by 12, so about 160. Yeah.
The addition to the face of the wall will meet the rear yard setback that is required.
Yes.
And you've actually pulled the addition off of the left lot line from the existing home, and not.
That's correct.
The location of the addition to the rear of the home, there is substantial evergreen landscaping and coverage there?
And the very rear over here, you can see they have a beautiful setting on the backyard, and these are very tall evergreens over here. We have a portion of the house also behind, in front of the addition.
Tell me why you kept the roof at flat as opposed to the 512 pitch of the park.
Well, if we had a 512 pitch, it will be more massive, and by doing flat, we eliminate the volume of the addition, and also we sort of mimic what is happening on the other side. Mimic. I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. So that's the reason for the flat roof.
In light of the fact there is that landscaping back there, do you think this addition will have any impact on either the neighbor behind this property or the neighbor on the Parkway side, the left side?
You will hardly notice the addition, very small.
And very briefly, the overhang that you designed above the side door, is that the minimal space that you need, the minimal area of that effectively protecting elements?
Yes, it's only 3 feet, it's only like that, so just to protect the person from coming inside.
Thank you, Chris. That's all I have. Mark and Terrence are here, should board have any questions for them, if so, we're available now.
Anyone have any questions?
Roger.
I have one question, maybe you can help me with. The little overhang on the side door, it's 2'10" off the property line? Our ordinance says that roof overhangs can go to within 3 feet of the property line. If they cut that back 2 inches, would that variance go away?
I really believe that that ordinance meant the roof overhang of the house, not not an overhang, not a specific, just a door cover.
I agree with Glenn.
We had a case. We had a case on Lagoon. We had a case on Lagoon Drive on that point. It was a lawyer, where it was just a. Do you remember this case? It was just a roof overhang, an existing landing, a large landing, and they wanted protection from the weather. And I thought we established the principle then. I mean, the board can make an interpretation if you want, but I don't think that's a big deal.
Immediately adjacent to the Weinstein Garage, I
Yeah.
don't think it has any impact on anybody. And just so we know that we have contacted, Mark and Terrence have spoken with Judge Weinstein and Mrs. Weinstein to the side, and Larry Rich is here, he's behind.
Is there anyone here from the public who would like to comment? The public portion is closed. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Is there any conditions?
No, not that I
No conditions? Make a motion, we approve?
have none.
Make a second. Second?
I hear a second. Anybody like to second?
Second.
Sales because it was.
Clem Wozleski.
I think the impact of all the different various variance requested is so minimal that it really does not violate the intent of our land use ordinance in any way. I vote yes.
Mike Richmond.
Yeah, I agree with Clem. As far as the flat roof is concerned, I actually think it's helpful in this situation rather than harmful, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino.
Seeing the nature of the home and the character, I'm glad that it was not a tear down and redo like a lot of other people are doing in town. And I don't see this variance application being imposing an impact on the neighbor.
Mike Cristaldi.
I forgot to vote yes.
As with the rest of the board members, I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano.
being in an older home as it is, those older homes didn't have much closet space. I'm sure that put it to good use. I agree with Clem on his assessments. I vote yes.
David Carter?
Yeah, it's a beautiful home, and everything works out fine as far as the neighbors are concerned. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
For the previously mentioned reasons, I also vote yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Meetings to a fifth.
Do we need to announce this, that this case is not going to be heard tonight?
Yeah, you can announce it. It's going to be carried.
When's the river close coming up? What? When's the river close coming up?
That one's yours.
I forget if it's December.
Oh, so we don't have a date? Let's just say, okay. We'll have to
Will it be
renotice.
re-notified?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely, has to be, yeah.
So you can announce that it's off and then we're going to re-notify.
Okay. If anyone is here for the Erber Trust case, it's been postponed. We're not sure when it will be rescheduled, either next month or the month after, and it will be re-notified. So that will not be heard tonight. Next case is Gene Levenstein, 9 South Coolidge Avenue, Block 131, Lot 215 in the MF District, to grant a C variance for left setback, rear setback, building height, and spiral staircase to second floor and possibly others. Taxes are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is vacant land, a recent demolition, 50 wide by 125 deep, with a total area of 6,250 square feet. It is proposed to construct thereon a 2.5-story, single-family home per the plans of Donald Zacher, architect, in the application package. If approved, the house would have 6 bedrooms, a second-floor rear family room, which accesses a large rear yard deck, 12 feet deep by the width of the house, as well as a front second-floor deck with a rounded front. At the first floor level, the front deck porch is repeated with an angled staircase to the sidewalk level. The rear deck or porch at the first floor is 17 feet deep by the width of the house. There is proposed a rear corner detached garage at the end of a very long driveway which could accompany 6 cars, the driveway and garage. A spa and low deck, 3 steps above grade, are proposed in the rear. However, the deck is not specified as permanently installed over a sand base. The proposed house would have a first finished floor at elevation 12, which is correct per FEMA and the Margate ordinance. It is proposed to top it off at 32 feet, 2.5 inches. There is proposed a spiral staircase in the rear from the ground to the first and second floor decks. The variances are building height, 32 feet, 2.5 inches above the mandated first floor, as compared to 30 feet permitted. Spiral staircase to upper floors, not permitted by ordinance. Rear spa-level deck. From the grades provided by the architect, it appears to be about 1.41 feet above grade, or 17 inches. If this is verified, then per code, there must be a 3-foot rear setback for the deck. It is drawn at less than 6 inches from the property line. Number 4, a left side setback. On a 50-foot wide lot, there's a minimum of 8 feet required versus 6 feet to the front part of the house and 7 feet to the rear half. Number 5, a rear setback, 25 feet is required versus 20 feet to the rear first floor porch, which is about 5.5 feet above grade. Number 6, possible variance for distance between principal structures. There is a small residence in the right rear corner of the property to the left, which may or may not be fully 10 feet from the proposed wall of this house. Comments. As to the height, there does not seem to be a reason related to grade or crawl space, as the house is proposed to have its first floor about 6 feet above grade. So the board should seek reasons within its purview for this variance, other than just a desire for greater ceiling heights. B, as to side setback, again, reasons by testimony will be important. Note that the house to the left, not the rear unit mentioned above, has a driveway and intervening 10 plus feet of space. The house to the right is 2 to 3 feet from the property line and combined side setbacks do comply with the ordinance. So the positioning set forth may be based on these facts on the ground. C, regarding the rear setback, which applies to the rear porch on the first floor at elevation 12, site visits will indicate whether detriments outweigh advantages. The same test applies to the lower spa deck, which should also be specified as permeable construction to avoid another variance. D, the spiral staircase brings up questions of aesthetics, necessity, possible future illegal conversions, and fire safety. It could be pointed out that there are 2 internal staircases inside the house, as well as a 12-foot deep second-floor rear deck and a large second-floor front deck. And finally, if approved, conditions would include correction of the scale of the site plan, which says 1 inch equals 10 feet, but it's actually 1 inch equals 5 feet, a garage elevation diagram showing the right side drainage as not encroaching on the neighbor, rear spa level deck to be permeably installed, and a look at the dangerous situation of a car possibly parked right in front of the front entrance steps. Possibly a demarcation between that driveway and the entrance path would be better. Any changes or conditions must be provided on 8 sets of revised plans.
Good evening, Eric Colton on behalf of the applicant. And as Mr. Rubin stated in his report, number 3, the rear spa level deck, that request for variance is being eliminated as there will be 3 feet from the rear. So that's
Which variance is eliminated?
the rear spa level deck. Spa level deck, number 3 on Roger's report.
Okay. How is that going to be, what are you going to do?
It'll be 3 feet, and Mr. Barnhart, Mr. Zach are here to testify to that. So, Barnhart, please step up, be sworn in.
John Barnhart. I do. Okay, as Eric pointed out, the property is known as 9 South Coolidge Avenue. It is a lot that has a 50-foot depth and 50-foot width and 125-foot depth. The lot formerly, as you can see on the exhibit on the right here, which I guess we'll consider Exhibit A1, an aerial photo, you could see the site in question I'm pointing to was a white 2-story frame dwelling. And if you visited the site recently, I'm sure you know that that property or that building has now been demolished and we're dealing with a vacant piece of property. As I mentioned, the site is in the multifamily zone, and this block of South Coolidge Avenue, we've been fortunate enough to do a number of the projects. There were, I counted about 17 residential properties on that block on either side of South Coolidge from Pacific to Ventnor, and 7, this would make the 8th, of those properties have now been redeveloped with new construction over the last 10 to 12 years or so. So it's a block that's really changed over the last 10 or so years. What we're here before you this evening to request is the construction of a single-family dwelling, albeit being in a multifamily zone. And we are asking for some variances. And are any of the variances hardships? No, they're not in any fashion whatsoever. But we believe that what Mr. Zacher has designed and what our client proposes is truly a case of what you hear as a balancing act, where we believe that the benefits of the deviations that we're asking for here do outweigh the potential detriments. So I'm going to go through the variances and try to explain to you why we are of that opinion. I'm going to start with the height.
Height.
What's that? 70%. I'm good.
That's why it's not the variance.
So when we were first brought into this project, everybody on the board here knows how much work we do in this town. We were first brought into this project, and it was explained to us that a height variance was being requested. Our first response to that was, it's going to be a tough sell, guys. But when we actually looked at the design that Mr. Zacher came up with, I found it interesting because I do believe that the deviation that he's asking for does outweigh the potential negatives. So what we did is we took Mr. Zacher's elevation plan of the building. I've titled it height variance exhibit of the date 11/20 of 14. And this is the side and front elevation of the structure. And I put some color to it in a couple locations to try to explain what Mr. Zacher has designed here. As everybody's familiar, at this location, the FEMA zone requirement and your height requirement are that the finished floor here has to be at elevation 12. This building is permitted to go 30 feet above that. The request tonight is to go 32.2 feet above that. So it falls within a 10% deviation, so it is a C variance, not a D variance. And it's, we believe, a modest request given the layout of this building and the roof line and the massing of the structure. So what we've created here is an exhibit to show you the red area, that being the only portion of this building that actually violates height. It's a 2.2 foot height differential. It's for less than 50% of the depth of the building. What we then did is we highlighted a yellow area, which is the front portion of the building, which would be toward South Coolidge Avenue, and for almost 30 feet, for a height of 4.5 feet, that's additional building height and additional building mass at the frontage of the building of South Coolidge Avenue that would be permitted per your ordinance. But Mr. Zacher, in his design process, has chosen not to create that level of massing on the front or at the front of the building. So what he has done is, although he's asking for a deviation, he's created a stepped effect to make certain that the mass, as you would see it from the street or driving by the property or even from a block away, would not be so heavy on the frontage of South Coolidge Avenue. So we believe in giving up on that height along the front of the building, but asking for the minor deviation toward the rear of the building, that the benefits of that design truly do outweigh the potential detriments. Because as I'm sure you can imagine, walking down South Coolidge Avenue, the way that house is designed, you know, a person being down here, you're not even going to see that portion of that building that is deviating from the land use ordinance. And I would also challenge anybody on the board, if you walk by a building of this nature, to be able to tell me by eye that you've exceeded the height by 2.2 feet. It's a small request, and I think given what Mr. Zacher and our client has given up, so to speak, in the front of this building, I think it's a small request that can be granted a variance for.
The red portion of the height variance is in the rear of the house, but it's in the middle of the lot because the lot's so deep, correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, there is still a front yard setback to that point, that's correct. Yeah, so it's at the approximate middle of the lot, that's correct. So there are a couple other variances that I do need to talk about. The second is with regard to side yard setback. As Roger's report points out, the requirement in the zone for a 50-foot wide lot is a 37% of lot width, which equates to 18.5 feet in the aggregate, with a minimum one side setback of 8 feet. Our proposal is on the left side, if you're standing on South Coolidge facing the building, is a 6-foot setback for, I'll say, approximately half the length of the building, and then increasing to a 7-foot setback for the rear 50% of the building. So the deviation goes from 2 feet up down to 1 foot for that left side. However, the aggregate requirement for the side yard setback is actually being met. So what our client has proposed to do, and it's with purpose, and we'll explain that, what our client has proposed to do is actually slide the building, I'll say up on the plan, just a little bit to create a wider area along the right side. The reason that they've done that is, first of all, there's a building immediately adjacent to the site. You can see on the aerial photo, which we checked the offset of, and it's only about 3 feet from that side property line. So they are allowing themselves additional space between their structure and the adjacent structure.
And what will that be?
I'm sorry?
And what will that be?
The total space would be their 3 feet plus, ours is varying, but in the front it's 14.3, so you'd have 17.3 between buildings here, and in the back this is 12.8, so add 3 to it, so you'd have 15.8 in the back. But the second issue is with regard to access to the home. The client's family has needs that require wheelchair access to the home. So what they're trying to accomplish is parking that allows you to get out of the car, wheel along the side of the building, and into the side of the building for elevator access. So that's a need for the family. It's not exactly a justification as per municipal land use law, but what I will tell you is that we meet the air, light, and open space requirements in the aggregate per your ordinance. We are, as I mentioned, 18.5 feet is required. We have, at the back of the building, we have 12.8 and 7, so we're almost 20. At the front of the building, we have 6 and 14. Again, we're over 20, where 18.5 is required. So we believe that we have met the intent and purpose of the air, light, and open space requirements that the side yard setback regulation is intending to require. The next variance deals with the rear yard setback. As Eric pointed out, and I'll just explain it briefly, Mr. Richmond asked the question, there's a essentially ground level deck in the rear of the property. Mr. Rubin's report pointed out that deck is shown as just a few inches off the rear line, but based on Mr. Zacker's design elevations, it would be required to have a 3-foot rear yard setback. So we've spoken with our client. It's a large area. There's really no reason that he needs that additional space. So he said, let's just cut that back. So the rear line of this low-level patio area will be the minimum required 3-foot setback off of the rear property line. So that variance is not necessary. The variance that is requested tonight with regard to rear yard setback is for the 2 stories of decks at the rear of the property. The requirement in the zone interestingly enough, the requirement in the zone here, as you know, a multifamily zone. Because we're building a single-family home, the rear yard setback requirement is 25 feet. If we were building a multifamily structure, the rear yard requirement is actually 20 feet. So the way the ordinance is written, it's interesting. If this building had 2 units in it, we would actually be conforming in the rear yard. But because we're proposing a single-family home, the rear yard setback is based on the percentage of your lot depth, as you know, so the rear yard deviation is requested. The reason we believe it's justified, well, again, the rear yard setback is required to be 25. We are proposing to be 20. The decks are open. We are actually giving an additional 12 feet to the rear of the building, so our rear building setback is actually 20 and 17, you're right, it's actually 37 feet from the rear property line. So the rear building actually would, by right, be able to be at the 25-foot line. So we're maintaining an additional 12 feet of openness, albeit we're putting decks in those areas, 2 levels of decks, but we are maintaining an additional 12 feet of openness along the rear of this building. So given the idea that we're in a multifamily zone that permits a 20-foot setback, given the aerial photo where you can see, if you look along the rear lines of these properties, you've got garages in the back. As you get down toward Pacific Avenue, you've got a multifamily structure, which is, we actually did that project. I believe it's got about an 8-foot setback in the rear. So you have things tight to the rear lines. So we think what we're requesting is an appropriate deviation from the land use ordinance, and it's a deviation that, being a different building type, would actually comply with your ordinance. It's kind of an interesting nuance.
John, you said that based on the surrounding properties in the neighborhood, that granting this variance would cause any hardship on any of the other?
No, I do not. 2 more quick variances that are part of the application. There is proposed to be a spiral stair to the rear of the building. You can see it in this side view here. It goes from the 2nd floor deck down to the grade level. The position of it, we believe, is done in such a manner that it will not create a negative impact on any of our neighbors. You can see it here in the plot plan. It's tucked into the back wall of the deck. It's tucked into the side, so from the street you won't even see it. From the side property, you probably could catch a glimpse of it, but it's basically an architectural feature in the rear of the property, and it does allow another means of rear egress from the building, from that upper floor, if you're outside, to get down to that lower level, which...
I was about to ask, Levinstein, the property owner, have a special needs brother-in-law, brother, who may need to get in and out of emergency personnel, would be fair to say that the spiral staircase provides an extra means of ingress and egress if need be, whether the elevator is going to work in the front and back door, use for that.
Certainly, additional egress is always a benefit to a property. And I think that Mr. Zachary has designed it in such a way to not create a negative impact on his neighbors. And the last variance that we need to discuss this evening, Mr. Rubin's report points out a possible need for a variance with regard to a building that's adjacent to the property. So we sent our surveyors to go check the offset of that building, and I'm just going to point to it in this aerial. It is that, it's that building right there. It's actually, it looks like it was a former garage or something. It's a little residential unit now. So I guess essentially, Mr. Rubin, you're saying it will be considered a principal structure because it's a unit, correct? Okay. So it's actually on the line. So if you look at it as compared to where it would fall on our property, it's about 25 feet deep. So it would essentially be adjacent to our deck area. Our deck area that extends the same as the wall of the building, which has a 7-foot setback. So I guess technically it would be considered a variance.
No, I think the interpretation would be not the deck, the wall of your house compared to the wall of that house.
Okay.
It says, the wording is the walls of principal buildings. Do you have 10 feet from the rear corner?
I guess the question I would say was,
Yeah.
what would you do? Would you draw a radius around that?
No, as the crow flies. You draw a single line from that corner to the closest point of the house.
This way?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's close, Roger, but we didn't survey the front wall of that building. I know what the offset
I
is.
know it's close, that's why I asked. I couldn't tell.
I would suggest that it's probably within a foot of needing a variance. I would suggest that we request the variance to be safe.
Okay.
And then the surveyor, we were not the surveyor on this project, so the surveyor would, if the project were approved, the surveyor would have to provide the precise dimension. But again, it's such a minor deviation. 7 feet is proposed back there from our property line, so even though that building is on line, we still have, we believe, more than adequate access between the buildings. And furthermore, I'd have to believe that that's a building that, if it didn't get destroyed during Sandy, I don't know how it didn't, but so it is still in existence right now, but it's a ground floor, literally at grade apartment. I'd like to believe at some point that building won't be there anymore, so I don't think it's necessary for us to really design around a structure such as that. That concludes my testimony. I'm just going to do, just real quick, as I started, we believe, these aren't hardships, clearly, but we believe this is a case where we have project benefits. As I talked about, Mr. Zachary's design reduces the building mass on the street frontage because of the way he's created a step-back roof elevation. I think that's very important. And when you look at whether we have met the requirements of balancing the deviations against the benefits. Another interesting point here, keep in mind, this is, I've said it a couple of times, this is a multifamily zone. Our client has chosen to take a piece of property and build a single-family house on it. Your density would permit 2.84 units. So he's actually reduced the density pretty dramatically from what the permitted use is here. Again, interestingly, the way your ordinance is written, he is bound by a 30% building coverage on this lot because it's a single-family, the proposal is a single-family home. A 45% building coverage is permitted on this lot as a result of a structure that is a multifamily structure. So the path that he has chosen of going single-family in this zone reduces coverage, building coverage. It reduces the impact with regard to density and traffic and parking and what have you. And his building design, we believe, reduces the mass on that street frontage that would be otherwise permitted. So when you look at all those elements, we believe this truly is a balanced application that can be approved. That's all I have.
Board, any questions for John?
I just have a comment. You've got a 50-foot wide lot, you've got a huge lot. you're putting a huge house on with huge decks. I know you said that wasn't a hardship. I'm just not convinced. For variance 1, 4, and 5, for the building height, the left side setback, the rear yard setback, it still baffles me, starting from scratch with an empty lot, that a house can't be designed to meet those requirements. It's just a comment. Anybody else on the board?
I had the same thought.
Okay, so there's a lot of variances for a brand-new house. Building height, you're showing a 10-foot ceiling height done on the first floor? And a not?
Donald Zacher? I do.
Okay, so we got 10 foot on the first floor, 9 foot on the second floor.
Right.
And on the second floor, it's basically bedrooms. There's no like living room or anything like that.
Small family room.
Small family, right. So why can't we just go 9 feet on the first floor and 8 foot on the second floor? And then give you a 2.5-inch variance for the height? Well, if you would knock 2 feet off, right? If you went 9 foot on the first floor and 8 foot on the second floor.
It's the plate height on the third floor to lessen the impact of additional height variances. If you look at P4. Thanks. If you look at P4.
Right.
We have a plate height of 6 feet 9 inches.
Right, 6 feet.
At the
9.
beginning of the wall, and then the ceiling goes up from there.
Right.
So the ceiling is really not spacious on the third floor. It's adequate. The 9 feet on the second floor is not an unusual ceiling height. Once you consider soffits for air conditioning, it drops it down to 8 at soffit areas. The 10 may be a little bit of a reach. We'd be quite happy with 9.9 and the 6.9. Instead of a 2 foot 2, a 1 foot 2 inch variance for height.
So why do you need 9 feet on the second floor?
Well, technically we don't. We can,
Right.
There's houses that are built all the time with 8-foot ceilings.
Right.
I do have one question, Wayne. On the third floor, it's 6'9" and an 8". By code, you need 7 feet for living space. So we've got to give them more room up there.
That 6 foot 9.5 is only at one point, and then the ceiling rises from that point on the slope. It's only the plate height.
Yeah, so that's just at the pitch.
Only the intersection of the sloping rafter to the vertical wall.
Power times are going to be up?
Yeah, probably
Right.
8.5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't show that, although I was getting
Yeah.
to that.
Right.
And then, on the, what is the reason, Roger, why don't we like spiral stairs between the first and second floor?
I don't know what, different people like them and don't like them.
Yeah, but why do we make it a variance?
Why is it in the ordinance? Is it-
Right.
I don't know. It's been in the ordinance since the 1970s, and I kind of gave some of the reasons in my review.
Right, and I know the one is because of illegal conversions, which seems to me to be the most prevalent one, maybe in the day, but now is a new day, and
Yeah, it happens occasionally, but not as prevalently as it used to happen.
right.
There are people who say that there are aesthetic detriments to it, and other people who say they don't mind it. There are people who say that there are noise elements involved in going up and down outside staircases, and other people who say that's silly. There are people who say that it's a real great extra way of getting out for fire safety, and other people who say, you don't really need it. It's not that safe to go that way.
The last time this came up, it was kind of indicated that this is going to be a matter that's going to be brought up before the new master plan, because there's really less and less reasons for it. There's reasons, but the reasons are getting less, and that this is going to be a matter that's discussed. And at that point, we approved that last spiral staircase.
Okay.
In this instance, just to follow up on that, Rich, there are some extenuating circumstances here with regard to some special needs that the Levenses are going to have, so to the extent you can get emergency personnel in and out of the house with one more way of not going in, we think that that's, in addition to being beneficial to the house for other reasons, really does serve a purpose, a legitimate purpose.
Okay.
In my opinion, there's more positive reasons for the spiral stair than are negative. The positives being fire safety, another means of egress. Another reason is just lifestyle. There's a pool, or if there weren't a pool, it just were a play area. It provides more access for the upper floor to be able to easily access the pool area without traipsing through the rest of the house. Just a lot of lifestyle issues that are all positives rather than negatives. Aesthetically, I personally don't see anything wrong aesthetically with a spiral stair. It's not in a prominent location, it's not seen from the street, it's tucked in the back. Anyways, I think the master plan will resolve that and may or may not in the future be a variance.
I think it was an interesting point that you brought up about, oh no, it was John, about the, so if this was a multifamily home, the 20-foot rear setback would not be a variance? Roger, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then I agree with you, that little house in the back is, that thing's got to go.
Take a look this way here, just roughly, comes out to like 21'6", or somewhere around there. What's that? Somewhere that house is in the back. The house is on the corner of the back, if I just swing a 10-foot arc off the corner, you just get a rough guess, it's like almost 22 feet.
Yeah, so that,
That's not even,
So it's well past 10 feet according to your...
yeah.
But just to follow up, like I think, when John said 2.84 units, if the use of the property was multifamily and was more intense, then property owner would be allowed to cover much more of the property and to do a much larger structure. He's certainly de-intensifying the use of the zone and still building a smaller structure than he'd be allowed, but with deviations. There's no question that the deviations are there. They wouldn't be there if we were going multifamily.
But the rules don't say if you build a single-family home in a multifamily area, you can follow the multifamily rules.
But I think there's a specific argument that this doesn't have any undue impact on any of the neighbors. The character of the neighborhood's not being changed. Yes, it's a big house. You're pointing that out, and it was designed from scratch as a big house, but it's not going to have any impact on the light, air, open space of any of the neighbors. In fact, I've gotten 6 or 7 emails and a couple phone calls from the neighbors saying they like the application, they're glad the old house is down, they're glad to see a single being built there. I'm not sure if any members of the public are here who have a chance to speak. Haven't heard anything negative other than they would like to see this go through. Not from everyone, but from the people that respond.
Well, it's a beautiful house. I'd like to see it go through, but even the comments on the roof height, it's so minimal. It's only this little bit. Well, if it's so little, fix it.
I think, as Don said, there's some room, I think, in his architectural opinion to drop that down a little bit. I think we ended up from 2.5 to 1.5, and get rid of a foot.
And a 50-foot lot, and you still can't meet the side setbacks.
Well, the side, I think, is more important for access for the wheelchair and to have the house pushed over that way. It would be tight getting out of a car, and Mr. Levinstein's brother-in-law is actually prepared to speak a little bit on
I understand that. My point is you're starting from scratch.
But
it might be hard to do it with this house, but you started from scratch with a clean slate, and you can't meet the side setback.
What if we did this? Why don't we lower the roof and do not a 512, but a 3, will we get a foot on 312 or 212? What do we have to go down to?
Yeah.
To reduce the height of the roof with a lower roof pitch. 312 will give them a foot?
Then they need a variance for that.
Well, I mean, but you won't do the roof?
but that's one variance that really, I mean, I understand the side thing with the wheelchair, and, I don't know if it, my opinion's, I don't know if that's the other left side setback, I don't know if that's that big of a deal, but the height is, there's no
benefit to the 2 feet. You know what I mean? And you know, we represent the whole town, not just that area, so if other people in other parts of the town want to come in for a 2-foot height variance, and they say, well, you gave that guy it, you know, that's an issue.
So it's just the rules.
Mike?
Two comments regarding some of the discussion. Just quickly again on the height. I understand what you're saying, heights, and we know coming in, height's a sensitive issue in Margate. Has been since I started working here. What my point was is that Mr. Zacker's design gives up on a lot of height and mass from the front of the building that they would be otherwise entitled to build. And all I was saying is for that, we believe that what he's asking for, I mean, it's less than half the depth of the building. Give up on that and take all that back as part of the design, which would be a by right height. Is that better for the neighborhood? I would argue that it's not. It puts all that mass back on the street. And all you really gave up today, if you so choose to give the variance, is that, you know, a little over 2 feet for that back half of the building. It's a true balance, and it's a hard decision. I'm glad I'm not on the board having to make this decision, but it's a case where you have to think about it a little bit, because that's a lot of that mass on the front of the building. It's not a threat, it's not what is before you today, but that's a by right condition, and if the variance isn't granted, he's going to have to modify the building to make sure, because Mr. Jack's going to have to modify the building to make his client happy, and, you know, what happens at the roof level, I can't say at this point. We think that plan, as proposed and as submitted, the balance of it is that this is a better plan than the permitted height. And it's not a case of giving it to everybody, in my opinion, because we've done a number of these before, and they've gone in both directions, some approved and some not. This is, you know, the ones we've asked for that have generally not been sitting back, their additional height almost 30 feet off the front of the building, which then you have to also add the front yard setback. So that additional height starts, what's our front yard setback now? The building starts 18 feet back from the street. That additional height that we're requesting is another almost 28 feet. So that additional height we're asking for is 28 and 18, 46 feet back from the property line is where that additional 2 feet will start to take place.
I just had a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to know, as I'm listening to your arguments here, has there been an agreement to make that concession of 1 foot? What is it that you're asking for at this point right now? Is it 9 and 9? So if you cut off the foot, or are we still at the original variance request?
Jim. I'm being told we would be willing to go 1 foot lower, but how would you weigh that up? Would you do?
What?
So yes, the answer to your question is that the proposal now in front of you would be to reduce it to a 1 foot deviation, and the floors would be 9 foot ceilings on the first and 9 foot ceilings on the second.
Thank you.
9, 8, and 6, 9.
9, 8.
9 foot, 8 feet, and 6, 9.
Well, then that would bring it into conformance.
So the next is 9, 9, and 6.
9, 9, and then the third floor would be the 6 foot 9, and then the slope is
Yeah, but then if you do Mike, if you do a 4 pitch, then it's bringing the.
Yeah, that would be a different variance, that would be 25 inches, 23 inches, I'm sorry. Difference.
And Mike, the only reason why I brought the roof pitch up, then we're not granting a variance for a roof height. It's a roof pitch. We've done roof pitch variances before.
The 3 pitches, and we'll still work at 23 inches difference. If we went to a 3 pitch on the third instead of a 5, we would go to 75 inches.
Maybe you should stop
down.
this, because if you want to...
Mike, why are we proposing another variance here? This is not...
That would be a pitch variance, and the type of had to win what is 3-12 pitch.
Me neither, but we're just...
Shingles on, yeah.
I'm sorry, Rich, I'm just trying to get away from a height variance.
By creating another variance, it's...
I think we've eliminated a foot out of the roof. currently, correct?
Yeah, but the board hasn't had the board hasn't had the opportunity to see a redesigned building. You know, you're negotiating
No, I understand.
a visual without seeing the visual, and I don't think that's fair to throw in a variance without the board being able to see what they're acting on. That's an entirely different, can you put a pencil line on that and show us what where would you see it, in the rear elevation drawing?
If we reduce a foot?
I know what reducing a foot means, but where does the 512 become a 312?
We're not doing that.
We're not doing that, we're not doing
This is
that.
what I'm saying, it's not fair to ask the board to do
No, we're
that,
not, Roger, we're just saying, I'm sorry,
They're cutting off a foot, and they have not proposed.
and not
to change
reducing the
pitch.
pitch.
not changing the pitch at all.
Well, all right, that's what you're requesting. Okay.
1 foot less than is being proposed. And Don said he can squeeze the heights 1 foot down. So it would be a 1.5 foot.
1
2.
1 foot, 2.5 inches.
Just one other quick comment I want to make. Mr. Patterson had, you have some real concerns about the setback. I just want everybody to keep in mind that we're not meeting the minimum one side setback. That's the deviation. We do meet the aggregate. In fact, we exceed the aggregate on the site. So the intent of the area that the ordinance is looking for is there on the site. It's just diminished by 2 feet for half the building and then 1 foot for half the building. I just wanted to make sure everybody is clear on that.
John, if under the multifamily regulations, would that side yard still be required to be 8 foot?
That would still be required to be 8, and that side would also only be required to be 8. So the aggregate, unless you have parking on the side, so the aggregate lot side yard setback requirement in multifamily is actually 16, where this requirement, because the single-family home is based on lot width percentage, so it goes to 18.5. But to answer the long answer to your short question, that side would still be there.
So we've eliminated number 6 and number 3, and we reduced the building height. We're talking about numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5, correct, John?
Well, Eric, I think 6 would probably be conditioned on that, some type of plans being produced that show that.
That show that it's further out? Okay.
Sure, it has to meet 10 feet. We don't have anything that shows that, so. I mean, yeah, I bought, I think they said 20, but I wouldn't say you're eliminating it right now.
All right, and if that's the case, then we would ask for it, subject to confirming that it's further out, that if it's further
And then it
out,
would
it
eliminate,
becomes
right,
moot.
right.
Clem?
Getting back to the roof height, if you took the first floor down to 9'2" approximately, and the second floor to the standard 8, you'd eliminate the height variance. And keep in mind that the living room is already 2 stories high.
We're not agreeing to 1 foot variance.
Well, I'm saying with those changes that I mentioned, you'd still have a 2-foot high living room, and you eliminate the height variance. And since that variance is totally generated by the desire for ceiling heights, which I think is a very weak argument, and I don't think there's anything under the Municipal Land Use Act that justifies a variance on the basis of just wanting higher ceilings.
Levinstein's brother-in-law is here. He did have a tough time getting here, and he does have a prepared statement on his computer, so if the board would indulge him, step up. You need a microphone?
I love spending summers at the shore with my family and coming down throughout the year. Please allow the house and I and Jen are building. Hi, my name is Sam Zlotnick, and I have cerebral palsy. I am Anna Levinson's brother. I love spending summers at the shore with my family and coming down throughout the year. Please allow them. Palsy. I am Emma Levinson's brother. I love spending summers at the shore with my family and coming down throughout the year. Josh, please allow the house and I and Jen are building to be moved. The only way I can be independent is if I can use my power chair.
Does the board have any other questions for the applicant? Or any questions?
I think, even with to be honest with you, looking at the plan, I mean, the side yard setbacks, it's a big house. I think if you don't give a little more on something, then, that's just my opinion.
Look, we want to get input, and I think that the owner is pretty, he understands, and we designed the house with Don, that there was a big ask, and as John said, there were some things about the house designed in the zone that we think still justify the variances, but there's some give, I guess, we can discuss.
Can they do that?
Vote on each variance.
You can. Yeah, I would ask for a split vote if that's not a problem.
Can I open it to the public while they're discussing it? While they're discussing that, I'm going to open this up to the public. If the public has any questions or comments, please come forward and be sworn in. Talk into the microphone, please.
Philip Feig, F-E-I-G, 8 South Monroe Avenue. My property abuts the rear of 9 South Coolidge.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Please swear the testimony about this matter which you will not what you're talking about.
Yes, I do. With the board's indulgence, I'd like to pass out 2 photographs which will enhance my discussion on the variances.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I'm going to mark Mr. Feig's 2 photographs as P1 and P2, representing public 1 and public 2.
I was going to refer to them as the before and after just for identification purposes. The before obviously shows the original house. What I would like you to notice in the photograph are the smaller sizes of the houses in the neighborhood. And this is going to go toward the bulk variance. And also you'll see a white fence in the foreground. That's on the property line between my house and the 9 South Coolidge house. You'll notice there are mature evergreen trees on both sides of that fence, which provided screening and privacy and quieter enjoyment of my property. If you go to the second figure, that picture, by the way, the first one was taken this May from the deck of my house. The second photo was taken last month. It shows an oversized cleared lot. And if you look at the white fence, you'll notice that the evergreen trees were removed on the Coolidge Street side of that fence, thereby removing screening and reducing the privacy that I had in my house. And the
Trees on your side were removed?
No, mine is still there.
Okay.
When they cleared the lot, they also cleared that row of trees. You can see on the 2, you can see the difference on the 2. The second photo is not as clear, but you can see that the trees are gone. You can see, for example, the large tree in the center is gone. So. There's been a lot of discussion tonight regarding the building height, and I object to that granting of that variance. I think the house is too big for the lot, and I think it's going to overwhelm the other houses in the neighborhood, and it's going to just be a large mess. And I would ask the board to insist that the variance be denied, and that there was discussion earlier this evening perhaps the architect can redesign to conform to the zoning. Going back to the lot line variances. Now, that's a large deck, and it's encroaching into the rear yard setback. And that's the part, and a deck that size, I'm concerned there's going to be parties and activities there and visitors, and that's going to disturb my living at my house. And I'd like that deck to be pushed back to 5 feet. And if that's done, I would like the spiral staircase also to be moved back the same 5 feet as the deck. I think there's a variance to move the spiral staircase out as far as the deck, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the variance is for the spiral staircase.
Not permitted.
Not permitted.
Okay. But I think on the drawing that I saw, it looked like it was the same distance out as the deck. I may be mistaken.
Well, if the deck's moved in, then the staircase is certainly going to be moved in.
And the spa, I was going to discuss the deck. I heard tonight that they are going to move the spa back from the property line 3 feet. I would ask that the trees that they took down be placed in that 3-foot strip to provide screening and privacy that was there originally, to put it back, particularly with the spa and the large deck, and activities that I would anticipate would happen at the spa. If you look at the original photo I gave you, that was all open space there. And I had children and dogs, and they played, and that's fine. It's a beach community. But with a spa, that seems to become, I assume that's going to become a center of activity. And I'd like to have that screened again. And also the garage, where I guess there is no variance. That garage is the foundation's 1.5 feet from my property line, 1.5 feet from the sideline, and that doesn't include overhangs and whatnot. If you look at the drawing, the spa equipment is going to be on the outside of that garage, and I believe the AC equipment is going to be on the outside of that garage. And I would ask, if possible, that the garage be moved back from my property line and extend those trees across that were originally there to the garage as well, to try and, for the aesthetics and for trying to silence some of the noise that'll be coming from that structure. And I made it quick, and I think the photo is not worth 1,000.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else here from the public that would like to speak? Public portion is closed. We may reopen it after you speak, so.
We've actually suggested a couple of modifications to the plan. Don, why don't you walk through what you think we can do some of the
Left-hand side. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm pointing to the section on the left-hand side of the property towards the front where the 6-foot setback is indicated, and then the second half of the house is proposed to be at 7. What we'd like to consider, if we can push this to 7, and this would then push to 8. So only this half here would be conforming, and this section right here would be non-conforming, need a variance of 1 foot. That would still give, we think, probably adequate access for disabled people, wheelchair, to access the elevator and to not be meandering through parking spaces.
So you're shifting the house 1 foot to the right?
Correct. 1 foot to the right.
And have you eliminated the height variance, or you haven't done that?
Sorry?
Have you eliminated the height variance, or you haven't done that?
We have it, well, we'd like to reduce the height by a foot.
Okay, so you're, okay.
1 foot, yeah.
1 foot.
You still want a variance of 1 foot, 2.5
We'd like
inches?
to request it, yes.
One other thing.
2.5 inch variance.
We haven't, you raised an issue about a car blocking some access. What was that?
The way, if you look at the site plan, you have a driveway going back to a wide, you have a curb cut going back to a wide driveway, and you have no separation of the paving material, so a car could come up that apron and park to the left right in front of the steps.
The microphone.
Yeah, I hear your comment. If we were to take the walkway at the bottom of the stair, the landing area on grade, and just continue it to the sidewalk, not increasing the curb cut any width, and then you wouldn't be walking into a car at all. You'd be walking past the car to get to the sidewalk.
I'm talking about, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a car could come up turn left and park at an angle in front of the front steps of the house. Possibly
Well, if a car were to turn left to the front steps, we can only get halfway, and it would bump into the bottom step, and half would be hanging.
And that would be an unsafe condition, because you have no separation between the driveway and that.
We can provide a
wide angle.
physical landscape separation, so it would be up to the driver not to be driving over a landscape area, but delineate a separate walkway from the drive lane.
I think that would
Yeah, that would be fine.
great.
After hearing from the neighbor on that first floor deck, you're asked, that's a 5-foot variance, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so can we do anything?
Please address that issue.
Can we request more?
5-foot variance for the rear yard. We're going to stick with that?
Can we request more greenery, like a couple of larger trees in the back? Can that be a part of the condition?
Well, how does the neighbor feel about that?
I think that's what he asked for.
He asked for the deck to be set back to no
He asked
variance.
for the trees to go back, too.
Right.
Two things.
What did they say about the height? They're reducing it 1 foot to a 1 foot 2 inch variance.
No, why does it matter?
31 feet, 2.5
We're not
inches.
even talking, we're not talking about
Variance
that.
that's reduced
Yes.
By a foot.
We're talking about the first floor.
Eliminate the rear side variance.
No, who said that?
Side variances.
No, that's on the lower deck.
Left side variance.
That's on the patio.
I agree with that, but they don't drop that back, and they don't drop the height on the...
I can hear that.
Yeah, it's at least it's something. 2 feet even. I mean, you know, the guy, because he said something about it. Right, it's going to be really high too, because they're going to be 12 feet off of the bridge.
Right.
Gives you control. But he has to reform according to our...
I have to move mine.
No, everyone's will record what was happening, so everyone was shut up. At times, like flag salute was never recorded.
Oh, if one's not on, it won't record?
Right.
Okay.
What do you want to whisper?
Who votes first, Clem? Does Clem vote first? Who votes
I'm going to put Mike Richmond first, then you have Walter Vice.
A couple minutes, we're working something out, I think we're getting closer, okay. Thank you. And
When's Clem doesn't, he goes first.
Usually,
Yeah, let him go, and then Mike can...
See, Rich, let me tell you about the yellow and the red. There's yellow. It's because we have in the ordinance a 50% rule on the third floor. Every house is going to have a lower section. It's not like this. Why not? Living room. He's not there. It's the 50% rule that requires that there be a lower section.
Exactly. It's going to have to be somewhere. Why would you want to put it in front? That's wrong. He just...
Okay, I just remember, I see it. So,
He says, I mean, he just... like him. He just say anything. They want to be black and white in the same sentence. I'm putting no if he don't.
So they don't get rid of the 5 foot at the back. I agree with the fact. I mean, half the house is a foot off.
They've eliminated most of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't come down another 8 foot back. This is crazy. You had a blank slate and you could have designed a house to fit on there and have everything in it.
Huge lot.
No. Clem me and then Mike. Clem me and then
Change this one. Filling up ahead of steam.
Thanks, guys.
You're the chairman.
I think that we can get around with it.
I'm sorry, what's your name? Mr. Feig, and we've discussed a couple issues he had, and being a good property owner and a concerned citizen of Margate, the applicant would agree to replace some significant trees that were buffering Mr. Feig's property, and he would, I don't want to speak for you, but he can speak, not object to the rear yard deck. And Mr. Zacher said he can move the garage up a couple feet to have a continuous line of trees from property line to property line behind Mr. Feig's property to Mr. Levinstein's property. I correct? I don't want to speak for you.
That's what we discussed. Is to replace this. I believe that the screening, the trees will give me the screening I need from both the visual and some extent the audio, because they have their the AC and the spa equipment on that garage. This will move back a couple of feet, but let them put in, actually basically replace the trees they took down. There was trees of comparable size to what's there in quantity to what's on my side of the fence, which is what they took.
The garage would go up 2 feet and a line of green
2 feet or whatever's necessary.
Correct. The garage would be 3.5 feet from the property line.
Where will the edge of the deck be?
The deck would be as proposed. Mr. Feig would withdraw his objection of 20 feet from the property line.
Ground floor deck, 20 feet instead of 25?
Yeah, the ground floor deck is, because you got to make room for the trees.
Well, they moved the deck back on the spa 3 feet, and then moving the garage back from the property line comparable, or whatever it needs. It really should be whatever distance is necessary to replace the trees with trees of that size.
That's what I'm getting at.
And that's what we were discussing. You got to put back those 12, 14-foot trees, and that's going to be more than a couple of feet, I'm afraid.
And Mr. Zacher said with that 3.5 feet, we're going to have enough room to put in the trees, the buffer between Mr. Feig's property and Mr. Levinson.
So then you're going to move the deck 3.5 to line up with the back of the garage?
The spa deck.
The low deck.
The low deck.
The spa deck stays where it is. That's no variance required.
There's 3 feet, and then you have the garage. You're asking the garage to be 3.5. It's not going to be on line.
If it stays the way you showed on the drawings, you got no room to plant the trees.
No, they agreed earlier that they could move it back 3 feet to comply with the zoning.
Clem, they said the garage would be 3.5 from the rear property line. Is that enough room
Garage
for
and the
trees?
spa.
Wait a minute, wait.
I'm sorry.
You're saying the garage moves 3.5 feet from the rear property line?
Correct, and the spa's 3 feet. That'll be 3.5
And the
now.
spa deck is 3 feet, so you have a 3-foot strip that widens to 3.5 behind the
No,
garage.
it'll actually be will be uniform from the garage and the
Okay.
spa deck.
Okay, is that enough room for the trees?
If they pick the right species, yes.
Okay, so what is this,
Be that 12, 14 foot high. I don't want stuff to
excuse me,
take a
that's,
lifetime to grow.
let's be clear, what did you guys agree to on the species and size and planting distances of the trees?
I would like it to be the quantity and the size and the type of what's on my side of the fence, because that was what was
It's
on
not-
their
The
side.
board can't act on that. What is the
I don't know.
species,
I'm
the
not a-
size, and the separation?
John can speak to what we're going to put in.
I do not know the answers to those questions. All I know is there used to be 2 rows of trees, now there's 1.
So with the same species.
What Mr. Barnhart indicated is that we can put in a tight row of arborvitaes, mature arborvitaes, not small plants, same height as was there before, which we can eye up with Mr. Feig's property. So we would do a line of arborvitaes along the back of the Levinstein property in the height of what is behind the Feig property now, same quantity, we can just match up tree by tree.
And
Well, if the others are not-
how high is that? Am I going to, yeah, would you?
The height of these, of what we see there is, it's hard to tell from the photo, but I'm guessing it's 10 to 12 feet is what he has on his side. It's not, my opinion is it's not reasonable to plant an arborvitae at 12 feet. The root ball's going to be too big, they're not going to be able to get them back there, they're going to be very hard to have them live at that mature height. What I would propose, your typical planting height of a good mature and usable and movable arborvitae is like a 6 to 8 foot height. And we can plant them very tight on like a 3 to 5 foot spacing center for the entire frontage. They will be creating a very good evergreen wall for you, something better than what you had there before, frankly.
Frankly, the fence is 6 feet. So if you're planting at 6 feet, it's not doing anything.
The fences at least.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe the fence is there, but if it's lower than the height of the fence, it's not doing me any good.
It is a tree that will grow, sir, so I mean...
It's 6 feet.
But I had there, we had there, you guys had there. We had there mature trees, I'd like it to be the way it was. It's that simple, or else I'll ask to get that piece put back.
It's 5. It's higher.
Well, maybe you gotta move your stuff further away from my property line.
You're not going to get 12-foot trees put in there.
But to have the short ones as short as the fence doesn't do me any good either. You know, maybe they gotta move the garage. You see, they're overburdening an oversized lot. It's part of the issue I see.
Okay, well, you tell us what you're willing to accept by way of a condition. That's what the board will act on. John Barnhart says,
I propose, all right, I would propose that we plant arborvitae hedgerow with a minimum height of 8 feet.
how far apart?
I would say they should be on...
I don't know, I'm not an architect, I'm not a builder.
Arborvitae hedgerow, 8 foot minimum height on 5 foot centers for the entire length of the lot.
8-foot arborvitae, just for the gentleman's purpose, an 8-foot arborvitae is a good-sized tree.
And 5, you know, there wasn't that level of tree on the left.
I understand that, and 5 feet is very close. It may be, the first year, you might be able to see through it, but they grow. And you don't want them too jammed together, because then they die, so an 8-foot wall is a good wall. You get bigger than 8 feet, and you're getting unreasonable.
I had what I had, but that's fine. No, I
That was their
appreciate the board
trees,
working with me and the applicant working with me to try and satisfy my needs. If you want
So the garage and the spa area will line up exactly in a straight line, 3.5 feet from the rear property line. Behind that will be trees. Okay, so we have that resolved. Would it be fair to say that that resolves your objections?
That resolves my objections.
Okay.
Additionally, as Mr. Zacher said, I know we kind of lost track, that he would be shifting everything over on this side a foot. Okay, so
Got it. I got it.
that still leaves us with building height at a reduced number than what we came in with, and
On the
rear
left side.
setback. The neighbor who was affected by it most, you just heard, doesn't care any longer because he's going to get his buffer, and spiral staircase.
We're going to split the vote.
I would ask you to do that.
Okay. We are going to split the vote into 3, no. 1.
You can do 5.
I'm
I know.
assuming it's the spiral staircase and everything else.
The building height. Spiral staircase.
Height, spiral,
Maybe we can group some
left
together.
side setback, rear yard setback,
Height's going to be by itself.
principal structure setback.
You can't, all the house stuff is integral. Height's related to setback. It should be just the house. But if you want to put the spiral separate, that makes sense. You can't do
I don't
height
think spirals are
as
separate.
one vote and then side setback as another vote, because the house is interrelated.
I don't know, I
The
respectfully
only
disagree.
split that makes sense is the spiral staircase.
Who cares about the spiral staircase?
Why doesn't that make sense?
Why don't we do height and stair now?
We're going to do, this is a split vote. It's going to be building height by itself and everything else together.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to read,
I'm sorry. The height is, Don, clarify when they vote on the height, what exact height are we voting
I have 31 feet,
31, 2.5
2.5
inches.
inches.
on? 31 feet, 2 inches, 1 foot less than in the, okay.
Right. Now, before we go any further, just because there was more testimony, if there is anyone else from the public that has anything to say. All right, the public portion is closed. Does the board have any other comments? All right,
Let's see if I can come up with a list of conditions.
well, let's, okay.
Yeah?
Well, let's vote on the building height first, so whatever you have to do.
Okay. All
Do we
right.
need any conditions on that?
I don't know, Stan, what do you think?
We can put them on the second part.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to hear a motion to approve a variance for building height of 1 foot, 2.5 inches above the mandated first floor level. The conditions will be attached to the second motion.
I make a motion to set forth.
Second?
I'll second.
Clem Moslewski.
I have not heard any testimony that I think is valid enough to justify any increase in building height over the 30 feet permitted. I vote no.
Rich Patterson.
I go back to my previous comment that you started with a clean slate here, and even with the house you designed, I see no reason why you can't lower it to the 30 feet. I vote no.
Mike Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, at the new elevation, 1288, that house is already going to be higher probably than most of the houses in the neighborhood, and adding another foot and 2.5 inches to it, I think is not needed, and I'm going to vote no.
Jim Galantino.
It's a tough one. Due to the fact that they had to elevate the structure is why it's so high. If they had been going on 2-3 feet off grade, not 6, where they're at, they would have been well below the roof height.
No, the roof height starts at the 12-foot elevation.
I understand that, but it's off, right, but he could have done it off curb, whatever's greater. Yeah, I got to agree with the board. There's not enough of a condition to warrant a vote, yes vote.
Mike Cristaldi.
I agree with the rest of the board. I didn't see enough evidence of any hardship here to go the extra height. I vote no.
Craig Palmisano.
I also agree with the board, and I have to vote no on the height variance.
David Carter.
I agree with the board. I can't see any reason to change this, so I vote no.
The application does not pass, 0-7.
Okay, Stan, this is up to you to read the second.
Okay. The second would be variances for the spiral staircase, which is not permitted in for this type of structure. The second variance is a left side setback, which has been amended to only one variance, which would be a 1 foot variance for the front of the home. Permitted is 8 feet, and requested as amended is 7 feet. The rear setback variance, I think, still exists from, the requirement is 25 feet, and the proposed is 20 feet. And the last variance, and this is not exactly known, but I think that they're asking for it anyway, would be the distance between principal structures. Although we've eyed the plans, and it seems like you may not need the variance, I think that the applicant's going to request that variance, so I would suggest that we vote on that. I do have some conditions. I'll let Roger take a shot at them first and then amend them if they're attached to these.
What I have is reducing the spa level deck from the rear so that it's 3.5 feet from the rear property line. An evergreen screen, moving the garage forward to the street so it is 3.5 feet from the rear property line. And along the entire rear, the 6-foot high, 4-foot on center arborvitae screen. 8-foot high. I have it 8 foot over there. 8-foot high arborvitae screen. Also, one of my original suggestions was we needed, on the elevation diagram showing the right side drainage as not encroaching on the neighbor, and the correction of the scale of the site plan, 1 inch equals 5 feet. And then the shifting of the entire shifting of the house 1 foot to the right, as put forth by the applicant. And a landscape strip between the driveway and the front entrance path, as we discussed.
All of those conditions are acceptable. And I don't know if, Roger, you mentioned that the spa, the rear yard, the spa level is being up to 3.5 feet.
I did say 3.5. I think I did.
Those conditions as read are acceptable to the applicant.
Do we need a motion, right? I'll make a motion. Second.
Clem Wasleski.
Stan, will you state a reason for each of these?
If you'd like to vote for one yes and one no, then state your reasons, that'd be best.
On the spiral staircase, I did note on the plans that even though Roger mentioned that there's 2 stairways, one of them only goes between the 2nd and 3rd floor. So as far as getting access out of the building, there's only the one interior stairway. So that and the fact that the spiral stairway is to the rear and it's tucked into a corner of the porches, I think the need for a second means of egress justifies it, so I vote yes on that. The left side setback, since it now only applies to a portion of the bay side of the building, and considering that the total side yards meet the ordinance, I vote yes on that. The rear deck we've already taken care of. The rear yard setback, I don't really agree with the ordinance that penalizes a single-family home against the allowed multifamily in the rear yard. So I vote yes for the 20 feet there. And the unknown variance, as far as the distance from the other building, I think John's correct that that other building probably isn't going to be there for long anyhow. So I vote yes on that.
Rich Patterson.
The spiral staircase is tucked into the back. It doesn't affect anyone, and it has more benefits than detriments. I commend the applicant for taking care of most of the left side setback. I think it's de minimis what he left as a variance. The rear yard setback, the neighbor's satisfied with, so I vote yes.
Mike Richmond.
Yeah, as stated before, the spiral staircase is, I think, is a good idea for a second means of egress, and it is tucked in the back, so I don't think there's any aesthetic problem with that. They did do something with the side yard setback. I think that was good, and I also agree about the rear yard setback. It can be 20 feet for multi, so I don't think and the neighbor was in agreement with it after they made the tree concession, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
I commend the lawyer for doing a good job with working with the neighbor in the back about getting the possible obstruction or non-obstruction of greenery. To the left side, there was a lot of discussion. I think that worked out quite well. With the staircase, I think that worked out. It's not like something you would see from the street. It is in the back. And the rear yard, I'm glad to see that that's all been worked out, so I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
To cut it short, I'm going to go with the rest of the board members and vote yes on both.
Craig Palmisano?
Yeah, I have to agree about the spiral steps. That's a good thing for me. I like that. The left side yard setback, the changes were appropriate. I appreciate that. I agree with the rear yard setback, too. That's okay, the 20 feet. I vote yes.
David Carter?
Based on where we started and where we've ended and with the neighbor comments and so forth, I vote yes on the variance.
Okay, the motion on the second vote passes 7-0. Eric, will you please sign? Do you need a blanket?
Here, use this one. I'm not using it, I used it to sign stuff. Need a break?
Yeah, you gotta get off and you're gonna be away.
All right. You'll go to the bathroom or you'll stay here?
Right. No, you're not on the pool. You're recused.
Next case is Stephen Richmond, 214 North Argyle Avenue, Block 502.02, Lot 28 in the S30 District, for appeal of building permit denial due to failure to satisfy planning board conditions of meeting 50% rule. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is a single-family house on a lot of 53.63 by 75 feet deep, presently containing 2 bedrooms. In September of 2013, the planning board approved a rear addition to construct a 3rd bedroom. The existing house is below the FEMA and City of Margate required first floor of elevation 11. The board approved the plan with the following conditions, per resolution 43-2013.
Eric?
Guys, can you, okay, the following conditions per the resolution. A, the applicant shall submit 8 sets of revised plans showing 1 additional parking space and a full and complete first floor plan clearly showing the addition at elevation 11 NAVD 1988. And B, approval is conditioned on either an opinion by the city solicitor that the old portion of the structure, which is not proposed to be raised, does not have to be elevated and may remain at the present 8 feet, or that the old portion must be raised, or that the city building inspector is satisfied/convinced that the damage cost is under 50% of the assessed valuation of the improvement. The assessed value of the house is $50,700. The solicitor was not disposed to provide a letter as to the above, leaving the only option that the building inspector, Jim Galantino, has to be satisfied that the cost will not exceed $25,350. It is the building inspector's opinion that Mr. Richmond does in fact exceed that figure, even with certain cutbacks in the scope of the work, and therefore a building permit cannot be issued unless the entire house is raised to elevation 11. Mr. Richmond is appealing that decision to the planning board, and of course the board will act upon this in its authority to confirm or overrule administrative decisions of city officials within the realm of zoning compliance. Solicitor Bergman will instruct the board as to the law and criteria for making this kind of decision. It should be pointed out that the building inspector, also known as the construction official, bears a profound responsibility with regard to his duties as our FEMA liaison and enforcer, as well as under local ordinance, Chapter 145. At 145-15A4, he is responsible to, quote, review all development permits in the areas of special flood hazard to determine if the proposed development adversely affects the flood carrying capacity of the areas as special flood hazard. He is also charged to, quote, coordinate with planning, zoning, and public works and other departments in the community to assure that the requirements of this ordinance are fully met. This is not a small responsibility. It inures to the safety of every citizen in Margate and directly relates to the flood insurance premium discount, as well as the right of FEMA to, in fact, withhold insurance from homeowners and city properties. This construction official has, since Superstorm Sandy, been a stalwart supporter of close adherence to the FEMA dictates, and as a result, our flood rating is one of the highest in the country. He has attended uncountable seminars and meetings with state and federal officials and is well educated in these matters, and consequently he, and by association the City of Margate, is held in high esteem by those officials. He also has overseen numerous conflicts of fact and opinion, such as this case, and is familiar with the pitfalls of an erroneous decision. His response to this application for overrule in the attached letter is important to the board's decision, and he will be available tonight as an expert witness to answer the board's questions. And I think now Mr. Bergman will charge the board, or at some point he will, and Mr. Richmond will present his case, and then Mr. Galantino will read his review and reflect on it after Mr. Richmond presents his case. All right, Stan?
Yeah, thank you, Roger. Just for the board's knowledge, because we don't see these a lot, this is an appeal of a zoning officer's decision concerning the 50% rule. And the appeal is brought under 40:55D-70A, where it allows a board of adjustment, which would be the zoning board, so there would be 7 votes taken in this matter. And what has to be shown by the applicant, Mr. Richmond, is that that there was an error made by Mr. Galantino's finding. The statute reads, the Board of Adjustment shall have the right to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged by the appellant, Mr. Richmond, that there is error in any order, requirement, decision, or refusal made by an administrative officer based on or made in the enforcement of the zoning ordinance. So how we're going to do this, because it's in the form of a hearing, would be to allow Mr. Richmond to present his case. His burden is to show error. That would be, I believe, by a preponderance of the evidence or a greater weight of the evidence. And I will allow Mr. Galantino, who will be a witness for the City of Margate in this instance, to testify. And then we will let Mr. Richmond make one rebuttal to his testimony, just as the differences in yours and his facts, not to rehash your whole case. Okay? So with that being said, does the board have any questions before we start?
Yes or no?
Okay, hold on.
The only question I have is our decision as to the error in interpretation or error as to application?
The error as into the findings made by Mr. Galantino with the denial.
Okay.
And we're going to formulate this by way of a motion at the end in a yes or no vote, so just for the board's knowledge. Any other questions before we start? All right, has the witness been sworn in? No. Okay.
Stephen Richmond, with a V.
Please raise your right hand. Please swear the testimony that you will tell the truth
Can I ask Jim to join the group, since I need to convince him?
Well, he can't join the group because he's a witness for the city, and therefore he's not, he's recused from the board when there's an appeal such as these, where he has to be a witness, so.
He can hear you.
He can hear you, he's right there.
Okay.
Just for the record, Jim Galantino's in the audience, and he can hear you and everybody.
For the benefit of you who were not here last year, I appeared before the board in September of 2013, where I made my initial proposal to build a two-bedroom addition in the back of my house, a lateral rear addition, first level, and the house is a ranch. The addition was a substantial improvement, and I was told at the time that the position of Margate was that all substantial improvements you're required to elevate the base house that it's going to be attached to. Subsequently, I did a little research, and Jim Galantino actually directed me to FEMA, and I had gotten a letter from Patricia Griggs, who is the regional area director for FEMA, and she sent me back a letter, and she copied Jim on it. And I don't have it in your packet. I do have one available to pass around. But she does state that for a lateral addition to a pre-firm residential building in an A zone, only the lowest floor of the addition must be elevated to comply with National Flood Insurance Program requirements. After I read Mr. Galantino's reply, and I guess it's his presentation tonight, I went back to the website to see if there was any recent updates. And if you have the supplement in front of you, you'll see that less than 90 days ago, they updated their supplemental information for substantial improvements. And again, you can see the bolded area says that for a lateral addition, if the subsequent improvement is to add a room or rooms outside the footprint of the existing building, only the addition is required to be elevated to or above the base flood elevation, meaning the existing building does not have to be elevated, and the entire structure will retain its pre-firm subsidized insurance rate. So I know that and now if you look at the next page, they even provided a diagram to demonstrate what they mean by a room or rooms outside the footprint. On the left side, you'll see an addition where the only opening is a doorway to get into the addition. And in this drawing, you can see that it says only the addition must be elevated. It's a little confusing, but under the existing structure, those are bushes out front. So the existing structure is at a lower BFE. If you look at the right side of the diagram, that's a situation where they open the entire wall of the house and then attach the addition. This is a case where they say you have to elevate the original structure. Now, if you'll turn to the last page, and this is a statute that Jim refers to, Roger referred to it a little earlier as well. And the Margate City statute, and this I just printed off the internet, and it hasn't changed from when I was here a year ago. Again, you'll see that the underlined portion, if the common wall is demolished as part of the project, then the entire structure must be elevated. If only a doorway is knocked through it and only minimal finishing is done, then only the addition has to be elevated. So to go back to your summary, Roger, the first issue I have is where you indicate that the solicitor was not disposed to provide a letter as to the above. That's true. He verbally told me over the phone that the city's position is that in the case of all substantial improvements, you must elevate the original structure. But I don't feel that leaves me only to the other option of a non-substantial improvement. I feel that if that is the solicitor's opinion, then he should be willing to put that in writing, which he hasn't done. Alternatively, I will go back to Patricia Griggs at FEMA and ask her more specifically, does what I want to do affect my insurance rate or the insurance rate of any resident of Margate? And I'm almost certain she'll say that it does not. That being said, I'll now turn to the specific issue of the non-substantial addition. As you can see, if we turn to page 6, in my main handout, I've numbered the pages in the lower right corner. You'll see that I'm now only proposing 1 bedroom and a full bathroom. I didn't even want a full bathroom. My contractor, Maria Sprouse, over at Artistry Through Design, said that she could build it and build it for under the 50% rule with a full bathroom. So that's why it's in there. So this was what was submitted to the city. And what the next page shows on page 7 is that Jim Galantino addressed what it would cost, in his opinion, to construct what I provided the blueprint for. And he came out to a comprehensive analysis that came to a total of, the total's not on there, but it's $33,000, and he does state that in his answer. And on page 8, I actually sent a response the next day indicating that I was now willing to make a further concession. Forget the full bathroom. Let's take the full bathroom out. All I want is a bedroom now. Just add a bedroom. I have a 2-bedroom house. I'm on I have 768 square feet. It's probably one of the smallest lots in the entire city. And I just want to add a 3rd bedroom. On page 9, you'll see that Artistry Through Design redid my proposal, eliminating the bathroom, and coming in at a proposal for $23,000. Now, page 10 is probably the best way to explain it. We really need to only focus on the differences, because she tried to make her latest proposal agree with Jim's as much as possible. And the categories that stick out are plumbing, which now, if you take out the bathroom, you eliminate all the rough plumbing, the toilet, the sink, the shower, all the tiling that would be done. The only thing that remains for plumbing would possibly be a few $100s to extend the lines for the washing machine. Because if you go back to the diagram, you'll see on page 6 that I eliminate now the bathroom, toilet, sink, and shower, and I'm moving the washer dryer up to against that wall where the hookups are already right there, because right now the washer dryer is sitting right in front of where the stairs are going to go on that diagram. That would be the only plumbing. Going back to page 10, the heating. The only heating I'm going to have is a split unit for heating and air conditioning. So we're not going to have to put in any more radiant heating lines or any ductwork from my existing air conditioning system. So it's only going to cost $1,000. And Maria also provided me with invoices from the plumber and the electrician to verify that she can do it for these rates. On the electrical, now the bathroom is not a bathroom, and it won't need an exhaust fan. You won't need you still need a GFI, I believe, for the washer dryer. That I'm going to admit. But even so, she had an electrician out there a few weeks ago, and he estimated the whole job. I used $3,000. She used $3,000 on her proposal, and he came in with an invoice for $2,500. So those are the major changes: the heating, the electrical, and the plumbing. Yeah, Maria thought he was high on windows and doors too, since there's only going to be 2 windows and 2 doors at $1,000 each instead of $1,500 each. And of course, a new flood cert is going to be required, but that's not considered a construction cost. So basically, you see where we can go from Jim's estimate, take out a full bathroom, and come down to $23,000. Jim's response to that was, I used $150 a square foot, and I'm sticking with it. So I didn't think that was fair. I thought that was arbitrary, and I did some research again on the internet, and you'll see on page 11. I went to 5 or 6 of the most common websites, and you'll see the pattern is they all come in around $100 a square foot when you're building a room without plumbing. I would agree with Jim's number of $150 for a room with plumbing, or an addition with plumbing. And there's even a couple of estimates on there. One's from Red Beacon, which Home Depot is involved in that website, and they came up with an average addition for $24,322. And then the next one down, you'll see, came up with an estimate of $23,804. And then finally on page 12, you'll see, I went to a popular website called buildingcost.net, put in my square footage, put in that I would build a addition of average standard quality, and lo and behold, again, we come up with a breakdown of $23,210. Going back to Jim's response, I think that the flood damage prevention ordinance 145 that is in Margate's books clearly allows for a substantial addition through a doorway, where you only have to elevate the addition. Jim talks about not allowing a variance because that'll blow up Margate's whole set of rates for flood insurance. I'm not asking for a variance. And finally, Jim says, well, you're just going to put the bathroom in later. That is totally unfair. It's a hypothetical, it's conjecture, and you have to disregard that. That being said, I think I'm talking about a a flea on Lucy the elephant's tail. I don't know, I guess Lucy has a tail. A flea on her tail. That's what we're talking about here. I can't believe that this little addition is going to bring down the entire Margate flood insurance structure for everybody. And I will go back to Patricia Griggs and get her to provide a letter, if that's what will satisfy Jim and the board, that even my property is going to continue at its old rate, and all I have to do is elevate the addition. Questions?
I have a question, and I guess it's for Stan and Roger. On Margate's definition, it seems to me what it says is if it's substantial and over 50%, you have to raise the house. It also seems to me that second part that's underlined would be if it's no, I'm sorry. Established. If it's under 50%, does no part of the house have to be lifted? If it's a lateral addition, the new part?
I think it's a question for Jim, because this is one paragraph, and Jim will provide the context.
Okay, I'll postpone that.
I have a couple questions, and this is on behalf of the board. In your submission, you referred to a number of documents. The one document on page 6, did you prepare that plan? Did you prepare the document on page 6?
Page 6 was prepared by an architect. I paid to have architectural plans drawn up.
Okay.
I submitted, what did I submit, Roger? 12 copies? Big plans.
Okay.
Lateral views.
So the answer is no, you didn't prepare the plans. An architect prepared them, right?
An architect.
Okay, I'm asking, because you're permitted to prepare plans. On page 9, which is the estimate for artistry through design, is anyone present here from Artistry by Design to testify if the board has any questions as to that estimate?
No.
Okay.
Maria is in Florida. She's out of town this week.
Okay. And what is your experience with, what's your education level and what's your experience with building?
I'm a CPA, and I've worked at various companies and had exposure not to residential, but to commercial real estate.
Okay. Do you have a contractor's license?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So if the board has any questions as to this estimate and the validity of it, who's the board going to ask? You tonight? Is that your proposal, that we ask, the board members ask you if they have any questions about this evidence that you're trying to present tonight?
Maria was available to answer any questions. I believe I told Joanna that Maria was available to you and to Jim to answer any questions you had before this hearing.
I'm going to ask you what I ask everybody that represents themselves at these hearings. Do you want the opportunity to get an attorney to help you with this?
Before we conclude our discussion?
Yes.
I'm fine the way I...
Okay, because you have a right to have an attorney assist you. This is a proceeding that's going to make findings that are going to be binding upon you.
I understand
And
that.
there's appeal processes, and you can
I
find...
understand that. The reason I'm not elevating the house is that I can't afford to elevate the house. It's not my primary residence, and
I understand that. I think the board understands that. We really do.
And I didn't think this was that difficult.
Well, we're subject to certain rules by state statute, and although the rules of evidence are relaxed, there still has to be credible evidence that's admissible, essentially, to the board. And what I'm telling you right now is I'm having a problem right now with what you're testifying to, because you don't have any background or skills to give an opinion or an estimate as to value at this point in time, in my opinion. You didn't bring anybody with you to testify that could testify as an expert, according to our rules of evidence, that has skills in giving values to your estimate, meaning that you're providing an estimate, but it's essentially hearsay because nobody can ask any questions about that.
But this is Maria's document with her contractor's license on it.
I understand that, but that's hearsay.
And she did provide me with 2 invoices that I can submit if you'd like, one for the
Yeah, well,
plumbing.
let me explain to you why
and
it's
one for the
Let me
electric.
explain to you why it's hearsay. And there's a fundamental reason. The number one reason is because nobody here can ask that person who prepared that any questions whatsoever. Nobody can cross-examine any of your documents that you're producing.
If you feel that this is not accurate and that perhaps she cannot do it at this price, we'll come back on December 18th and have her here to answer all your questions. This is not almost all these numbers are Jim's numbers. We matched them up almost identical. We're just taking out the plumbing, some electrical, and heating.
Right. Well, that's up to you if you want to request what you want to request, and the board will take a vote whether they want to continue it or not.
I think it's reasonable.
Do you want to continue the matter and bring your expert or not? That's the question. Or do you want the board to make a decision based on the evidence you're submitting?
Could I interrupt? Did you say that she would be available at the next meeting? Okay.
Because we want to be, the board wants to be fair and give you every opportunity to present who you want to present. And I just, nobody wants to rush you or make you do anything without you knowing what you're doing. So that's why I'm asking the question. That's why I asked the question about the attorney also, because I want the record to be really clear of the opportunity that you had to do that.
If my only option is going to be a non-substantial addition, yes, I will. I would prefer to bring her in. I don't know why you're challenging her integrity. I know Jim has worked with her before and she has done jobs in Margate, so I don't know why you would question it. And as far as
I don't think you're understanding the difference between her integrity and the fact that nobody can cross-examine or ask questions to a piece of paper. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's questioning your integrity of the
all right,
validity.
I see. It's illegal.
Okay.
It's illegal.
Exactly. Do you understand now?
Yes,
No one's-
yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
That being said, I still feel that I have issues regarding whether or not it's a substantial addition through a doorway where it doesn't matter whether I meet the 50% test or
I
not.
understand. Okay, so you'll proceed with that part of it?
With that part of it.
Well, we're going to proceed with one hearing or not. So the question I have is that if we're going to proceed with that part of it, we're going to proceed with all of it tonight. If you want to make an argument as to...
I can hold off on that as well. I just don't, Roger implied that that's my only option at this point. I don't believe that because Scott Abbott never provided anything in writing stating the city's position. And I feel I can get more information from FEMA to support the fact that I'm not going to blow up the entire Margate flood insurance program.
Well, I understand that, but there's a community rating system that if yours goes through, I think the fear, and probably residents would have a reasonable belief to fear that if these are granted and it affects the community rating system, that maybe it's just not your house, but the next house and the next house.
I agree. But why didn't you take it out? Why haven't you changed the ordinance then? Why is the ordinance still there? Rich Patterson last year said that as long as I act within the law, and that's the law as it stands today in Margate, that I should be allowed to do this. I can't be penalized for following the law.
Okay.
That was his exact words.
Well, I think that the issue is that you're not following the ordinances. That's what we're here for. Whether Mr. Abbott gave an opinion...
Which ordinance am I not following?
If you would let me finish for a second. Okay, I promise I won't interrupt you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Whether Mr. Abbott gave an opinion or not isn't in the purview of this board. What the board is here for, under the statute, is a decision by Mr. Galantino. That's all we have jurisdiction to decide tonight. So I understand your argument, but that's a different issue than what's in front of us tonight. And it's not in front of us. And it can't be in front of us because that's not really what we're here to do.
And I'd like Jim to explain to the board what ordinance I'm violating.
Okay. All right, you finished your presentation? Do you want to continue or not continue? You want a chance to bring in any experts or an attorney? I'll take that to, the board will take a vote on that, whether they're going to allow that or not, because we're here tonight. And some board members may feel that you should have been prepared to have that done tonight.
I can't control the traveling schedule of my contractor, and she wanted me to continue with it. She told me not to delay it. She wants to get the foundation in before the ground freezes.
Okay.
But we'll come, I'll wait. I'll come back.
Okay. Well, okay, so you're asking the board, just for the record to do this, you're asking the board to continue the matter to allow you to bring your experts in or an attorney?
Correct.
All right, so they're going to have to vote on that.
Or resolve it between me, you, and Jim before the next meeting.
Well,
I
maybe.
think we can do that.
We'll see. I'll be happy to help. If Jim
I
asks me, I'll be happy to help.
Or between me and Jim.
You understand it has to be a vote now because tonight was the hearing, so your postponement request and your continuation has to be voted on by the board, okay?
That's what we're voting on, to postpone.
Okay. Does anyone on the board want to make a motion to allow the continuance?
I'll make a motion to allow the continuance.
Anyone second? Okay.
Get a voice vote?
We can do a voice vote, yes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You're opposed?
You're in favor of continuing it, David? Okay. All right, so 7-0.
7-0 to continue the matter.
All right, we'll get it. And also, because it's your request to continue it, there may be jurisdictional requirements that you're going to need to consent to that, which you have. You understand that? It's going to go further than maybe the days that are permitted for a decision to be made. So you're consenting to that extension, correct?
Yes.
Because you're making the request to extend it.
Yes, I am.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, so we'll give you a new date. I'm not sure if we have a new date yet, but we'll give a new date to continue.
Let's get this over with. We already have 6 cases for December. We'll make this the 7th, because we already have 7 cases for January, so there's no point pushing it off that far.
We'll make it the next.
Yeah, so please, if you have any additional material to submit, get that in by December, what's 2 weeks, December 3rd, material.
Right.
If you have no additional material, just show up on the 18th. You'll be on the agenda with your witnesses or whatever. Okay? Because
sir.
we need to get the additional material to the board members within 2 weeks of the meeting. Okay?
Are the board members going to save their material?
Will you
Or
all
does he
please
need to
hold your...
resubmit?
They can save the material.
Please hold your packages.
Just any additional materials like tonight that you handed out, if you have that, just provide them by December 3rd, we request. Is that okay, Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Yeah, get me 18 additional sets of any additional material, if there is any.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is Chris here? Do we have a problem with Blessed Sacrament we need to discuss?
He's not here. Did he forget, or he doesn't know how to do it tonight? Stanley? The Blessed Sacrament condition.
Hey, guys. Mr. Richmond thinks this meeting's still going on for him. You want to excuse him?
Oh, wait, that's
Yeah, you're done, sir.
Okay, thank you all.
We'll see you next month, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond.
I didn't see him, Stan.
I had asked, concerning the Blessed Sacrament matter, that's what we're bringing up, I'd asked Chris to submit a letter just essentially saying that he would post security and we could make, that he could post security pursuant to the our ordinances, rather than the demolition at this point in time, because it's permitted. I didn't think that was a substantial change in that, so I haven't gotten a letter yet, so I'm going to just
Do we
wait
need
on
to
that.
vote on anything?
No.
Okay.
That's Holy Trinity.
Holy Trinity.
What do you mean we can't issue a demolition permit for it?
No, one of the conditions was that there had to be a demolition of the property before it was recorded. And they requested an amendment to that condition, essentially just saying, the condition's fine, you can put it in the resolution, but we would just ask for the security to be posted rather than the condition, because they may or may not do certain things.
So we can't.
So I asked them,
We can't issue a demo permit then, if they come in.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, you can always do that because the ordinance requires, it's them requesting that they may not demolish it, they may refurbish it, et cetera, and issues came up between us, and Roger and I discussed them or emailed about, that could call for variances, and that could call for a bunch of other things if they do that. So
I
I
think
wanted
there
that
is
to
a-
be put on the record.
I think there was a grading issue with the neighbor in the back. She
Right.
gave me her number that we were going to have some site inspection prior to releasing an approval after demolition.
Right.
That was, I think that was a condition, wasn't it? No?
It didn't
It did become a condition, I think it did, you're right, I remember that.
So, Stanley, will there eventually have to be an action by this board to amend that condition or not? You could just do it by correspondence?
I think they can do it by correspondence because it's not a substantial change and it's part of the
Okay.
ordinance. So if I feel differently, once I get the letter from Chris, which I'm expecting, I can list it if possible.
Good.
Anything else?
Was there any other business? That was it.
Make a motion, we close for tonight?
So the next meeting is the 18th, a week before Christmas. We have the 7 cases now. 7? Yes.
Right.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
doesn't end.
Your motion to adjourn?
I make a motion. Second?
Palmer Simon seconded it. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah,
Happy Thanksgiving.